Hey everyone, it's Raphael here, and today I'm going to be talking about The Flash Season 8. It was released on Netflix today, actually, which is why I thought today was a good time to make the video. And it's about this one scene in Armageddon Part 5, so the 5th episode of the season, and which I believe is the worst scene of the whole season. And if I'm being honest with you, it's probably also one of the worst scenes of the whole show. Now, in this part of the episode, it is when Joe is angry at Barry and Iris for their decision of what to do with Reverse Flash as he was getting erased from the timeline. Now, the reason why I think this scene was awful is because what Joe was accusing them of was as if Barry and Iris were personally murdering Thawne, but the reality of this scene is that Thawne did it to himself by screwing up Barry's life, almost screwing up his life, time traveling over and over, and then finally when a timeline was nearly fixed, that is the time that Thawne was about to get erased from existence. So the whole plot of the episode is to defeat Despereaux and also prevent Thawne from fading away. So basically, as a result of Thawne's own bad decisions, that is why Thawne is about to die or be erased from existence. Now, Joe was very angry at Barry and Iris for deciding that the timeline should fix itself by erasing Thawne, who is a walking paradox from existence. Now, the reason why this scene was terrible is because if you look back at Season 2, so this goes way back to like 2016, 2015, 2016, that time period of the Arrowverse. Barry has killed Atom Smasher, Sand Demon, he let Griffin Grey die of old age, that's 3, and then 4, when he let Zoom get taken by the Time Wraiths to suffer a fate worse than death. So we can count that in, even though if Zoom was alive, we could basically count that in. And then for number 5 is in this exact same episode, so this is the same episode where Joe yells at them for what they decided to do. For all they know, if I'm looking at the wiki page right now, it says that the status with Despereaux is currently unknown, so for all that they know, Barry might have killed Despereaux at the end of Armageddon. So what I'm trying to say here is that when this happened, Joe was perfectly fine. He didn't scream at Barry, he didn't yell at Barry, he didn't do anything about him threatening to disown him. Like, what I'm talking about is, and there's also another thing, Season 3, the final episode of Season 3, do you remember when, I guess it was Iris who shot Savitar at the end, then Savitar faded away from existence? When that happened, that's basically Iris's first ever kill in her entire life, and again, Joe was silent. So, we have this clear pattern of Joe telling Barry to obviously take the higher ground and act like heroes do, but he also had the common sense to know whether a threat was too far gone and could not be saved, and there was no other choice but to kill him. So Joe was aware of that. We know this because Joe also shot Clyde Marden all the way back in Episode 1, so all the way back in the pilot episode of Season 1. So that's Season 1, Episode 1. Joe shot Clyde Marden when he was about to shoot Barry. So we have this clear, like I said before, we have a clear pattern that Joe knows that when killing is necessary, but also kind of tells Barry that to obviously take the higher ground when possible. So now looking at this episode of Season 8, when Joe is saying to them that if you let Thawne die, well, you don't have to worry about him destroying our family. He was kind of threatening Barry that he would disown him if they went with their original decision to let Thawne get erased from existence. Now, the stupid thing about this is because Thawne, in just the last 4 episodes, Thawne is the reason why Joe died in the first place before the timeline was fixed again. And then Thawne even admitted to Barry around, I think it was, I believe earlier on in the episode when Barry was asking Thawne if he would leave them alone after they saved his life. And Thawne, in his own self-admission, states that he would not stop with messing with Barry's life and personally trying to ruin his life. So now we can clearly see that even if they save Reverse Flash's life, he clearly will not stop. So he has already endangered billions of lives by changing the timeline over and over. And the biggest example was during Armageddon, as most of what happened was Thawne's own doing. So we can clearly see that in comparison to the people that Barry did kill in Season 2 and Season 3, Thawne is a much bigger long-term threat compared to those. And Joe had no problem with when Barry killed those short-term threats, but when it comes to an actual threat like Thawne, who has cheated death countless of times, that is the time that Joe draws the line and threatens that if they don't save his life, he will disown them both. Like, come on, it's just like, I remember seeing that scene and I was beyond shocked. So like that is how bad that scene was. And I will leave a link in the description below. I think I said this earlier, but yeah, I'll leave a link in the description below if you guys have not seen that yet. You will know what I'm talking about. He was very angry at Barry and Iris. I was even thinking, it's like, okay, they fixed the timeline and they made Joe alive again, but I was actually thinking, is that like, is that really Joe? Like, did his upbringing like change at all? When you know what I'm saying? Remember in season 3 when Jay Garrick was telling them that even if you fix the timeline, you can try your hardest to do it, but despite how much you try to fix it, it will never truly be the same. So I was thinking something like that happened, but I guess the writers or whoever, they imply that that's simply Joe trying to take the high ground, which again, the scene was just pathetic. It was ridiculous. Like I remember, like, I was very happy that Joe was alive, but then it was like a kind of a whiplash. I was very happy to very disgusted, like, all at once. It was a roller coaster, so it was crazy. But like what I'm saying, I remember when I looked at the reviews for this episode, I was glad to see many people brought this scene up as well, because it was just the worst scene of the episode. It was, I mean, look, season 8 in general has a bunch of bad moments. You know, the seasons have just gone downhill, you know, as the show goes on. But I mean, that particular scene definitely stood out as the worst one. All right, well, but yeah, obviously they'll leave your comments down below what you thought about it. I'm actually curious as to what people think, like if they agree with what Joe said or not. But I'm just going by what the show has told us in the other seasons, and I'm comparing that to what Joe is doing right now. And who else? So, oh yeah, there's one thing I forgot to mention. So, Season 2, Episode 7, when Harry Wells is in Star Labs and Joe walks in, there is the moment where Joe actually shoots at Harry, mistaking him to be Eobard Thawne. So, even back then, Joe was okay with letting Thawne die, because he is aware that Thawne is a massive, massive threat, and that it would be very stupid to leave him alive, especially after what happened with Eddie Thawne and Ronnie when they both died in Season 1's final episode. So, essentially, we have this, like I said before, we have this clear pattern that Joe, although Joe has told Barry in the past to try to rehabilitate the villains if possible, also know that there are villains who are too far gone and have to be put down for the sake of the greater good. So that, though the past seasons have done this very well, it's only in this stupid episode when they decided to character assassinate Joe in this way. It was just ridiculous. So yeah, as for Armageddon itself, like the whole crossover, well, it was okay. There were some great moments, but at the same time there were some disappointing moments. So I would say that this season is better than Season 7. But, you know, it's not really saying much. Season 7 was terrible anyway, so it's not really saying much to beat that season. Well, yeah, what else? So there's also the time when, I guess it was when, yeah, so let's move on to Despereaux, because, like I said before, I'm gonna bring up the screen again. It's when Despereaux was supposedly killed. Well, like, we don't know if they killed him off or not, but what I'm trying to say here is that they don't actually know if that was the case, but Joe was very silent, and I'm sure that like that is more of the Joe that we know from the first few seasons. He would understand Barry's point of view as to why they had to put Despereaux down if that was even the case. But we would understand why that Despereaux was already a big threat to Team Flash. And yeah, so that's it. Well, Thawne, see what happened near the end with Iris's fake out death. But like I said before, for all they know, Iris might have died at the end of the season. She's not dead, but I'm trying to say here is that there is a fake out death at the time. And all I'm trying to say is that, see what I'm talking about when Thawne was left alive? That happened. So like I said before, Thawne has already said this in his own words, that he would not stop messing with their lives if they save his life. So when it comes to an actual long-term threat, this is when they made Joe act like this. It was very forced, and it was just not a good scene in general. I said I'll leave you the link down below, and you guys can judge it for yourselves. So that is Season 8, Episode 5, where it happened, and I will see you in the next video. That's all I gotta say about it. But if you guys want to see it, it's on Netflix already. If you guys don't want to simply see the clip, if you want to see the whole episode, it's on Netflix. So leave a comment down below what you thought, if you agreed with me, if you disagreed with me, or if you can kind of see Joe's point of view as well. I guess, like I said, people were saying at the time that, well, yeah, Joe, I guess it's a character development. Joe is more wise in Season 8, that's why he is now making sure that Barry and Iris don't do something they become guilty of later. But what I'm trying to say here is that that would be okay if not for the fact that in that exact same episode, they pretty much like killed off Despereaux, and then they just were very silent about it. It's just like hypocritical, you know, it's just stupid. So yeah, like I said before, leave your thoughts down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Raphael out.